woke. For some, it's just another word for progress. For others, it's the reason why their favorite franchises feel hollow. But what if the real issue isn't the intent, but the execution? Studios say they want more inclusion, more representation, more voices at the table. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good one if it leads to stronger, more honest storytelling. But somewhere along the way, the focus shifted. Characters became symbols. Dialogue turned into slogans.
Because I do it infinitely more than you.
And emotion took a backseat to ideology. This video isn't about outrage. It's about outcomes. What were the goals behind modern media's big push for diversity and inclusion? And why are so many fans across all backgrounds checking out? Let's take a closer look. Huge shout out to my dear friend Very Cool Reviews for helping bring this video to life. Seriously, do yourself a favor and check out his channel. His videos are incredible tributes to the movies that shaped our childhood and defined a generation. You won't regret it. Link in the description.
You're watching Very Cool Reviews.
What is DEI anyway? DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. 3 words that, on paper, sound noble. After all, who wouldn't want more diversity? Who doesn't believe in fairness and making people feel included? But here's where things go off the rails. While the idea of DEI is easy to support, the application often turns into a rigid checklist. Instead of creating complex, authentic characters, writers are pressured to follow a set of unspoken rules, mandates that prioritize optics over story. Casting, character arcs, and even plot decisions are shaped not by what serves the narrative, but by what checks the right boxes. The result? Stories that feel hollow, characters that feel artificial, and audiences that feel disconnected. When creators are more focused on avoiding offending someone than embracing truth, tension disappears, stakes vanish, and with that, so does good storytelling. To all the artists out there, imagine someone telling you to completely change a story you put your heart and soul into, to reshape every character, every plot point, just to fit into these rigid boxes. It's not your story anymore. It's content serving someone else's agenda. How would that feel? How would it impact your creativity? Would you just take the money? Do you honestly think Jon Favreau, James Mangold, and everyone else in Hollywood just forgot how to make good movies? Or is something else going on behind the scenes? Now, next time you're watching a movie or a show, keep these rules in mind. Watch how characters behave, how they make choices. You might start to notice patterns, predictable outcomes tied to gender, race, or identity rather than genuine storytelling. Once you see the limitations, it becomes hard to ignore how these mandates can shrink the creative possibilities instead of expanding them. 1. Race swap legacy characters. Instead of creating new diverse characters, Hollywood often recasts existing white characters with actors of color, especially in remakes. Think superhero reboots or fantasy adaptations. Number 2. Conceal real racial identity. Actors of color are sometimes cast as aliens, mythical creatures, or characters hidden behind CGI. Diverse, but not visibly so. 3. Diversity without narrative relevance. Characters' races changed for representation, but without integrating that identity into the story's world or culture. 4. Promote interracial relationships. There's a noticeable preference for romantic pairings that are interracial. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but strange to make it a requirement. 5. Women can't lose verbal arguments to men. Even when it feels forced, female leads must win debates, especially against male characters. They are morally infallible and can never be wrong. 6. Women can't lose physical fights to men. Whether she's trained or not, she'll often overpower larger, stronger male opponents, no questions asked. A woman can only lose a fight to another female character or her environment. 7. Women can't learn from male characters. Female characters are rarely shown receiving mentorship from men. They must arrive fully formed or be mentored by women. 8. Women must be in positions of leadership. She's often introduced as a CEO, general judge, or expert starting at the top, with little backstory on how she got there. 9. Romance with men is discouraged. Strong female leads often avoid romance entirely. Falling in love is seen as a weakness or distraction. 10. Motherhood only if single. If a woman is a mom, she's usually doing it alone. Nuclear families are rare. Single parenting is a symbol of female empowerment. 11. She must initiate intimacy. In romantic scenes, male characters initiating intimacy is considered predatory. The woman must make the first move and choose to kiss the man. 12. LGBTQ characters are mandatory. Even in stories where it may not fit the setting or tone, studios often include LGBTQ characters to check the representation box. 13. Body positivity. Characters who don't meet traditional beauty standards are celebrated, especially if they reject the idea of changing themselves. 14. Parents, especially fathers, are wrong or absent. Dads are often clueless, abusive, or not around at all. Parental figures are shown as barriers to growth. 15. Found families instead of biological ones. The real family is the one the character finds along the way, not the one they were born into. This is also to undermine parents as guides and authority figures. 16. Traditional religion is mocked or erased. Faith, especially Christianity, is rarely shown respectfully. It's either ignored or used as a sign of oppression. 17. Religious characters are oppressive. If someone is religious, they're likely judgmental, controlling, or the story's moral obstacle. 18. Witchcraft is celebrated. Magic and witchcraft are often symbols of female empowerment, rebellion, and freedom, especially in youth-focused stories. Now, not every movie follows all these rules, but if you start noticing these patterns, you can't unsee them. Are these trends pushing stories forward or limiting creative freedom? Any of these plot points could be totally valid in the right story, but when they shift from creative choices to unspoken requirements, they stop serving the narrative and start restricting it. Good storytelling should have freedom to explore every angle, not just the ones that fit a pre-approved checklist. These rules don't just dictate what must be included, they also quietly decide what can't be shown. And that's where creativity starts to die. Real diversity in storytelling isn't about checking every box. It's about telling the truth, about the human condition, with all its flaws, contradictions, and messiness. That's how stories connect. That's how characters resonate. And that's how you earn your audience's trust. So how do we get here? Let's break down the vicious cycle that led to the financial bankruptcy of Hollywood. It all starts with the DEI mandates, not as creative tools, but as requirements, non-negotiable boxes that must be checked before a story even hits the page. Characters are written to serve agendas, not arcs. Plot lines become delivery systems for messages, not emotion. What used to be driven by conflict, theme, or catharsis is now built around superficial representation. Next comes the press release, full of buzzwords and progressive applause. First ever this, most diverse that, a bold step forward. The marketing becomes less about the story and more about the optics. And for a moment, it works. Headlines are written, retweets go up. Everyone involved gets a short-term ego boost. But the audience? They're not buying it. They show up and they're bored, disconnected, confused, or they don't show up at all. Because once the novelty wears off, people are left with what really matters. Is the story any good? Then come the test screenings, which flop. So what does the studio do? Reshoots, expensive ones. But here's the kicker. The reshoots are still beholden to the same DEI mandates that compromised the film in the first place. So what do they fix? Nothing. What do they change? Nothing. What do they spend? Millions. The movie releases. It underperforms. Or worse, it bombs. And instead of facing the hard truth, the press runs interference. They twist metrics. It had a strong Thursday preview. It was #1 at the box office, even if the box office was dead that weekend. They spin disappointment into success for as long as they can. Meanwhile, actors and directors stay silent. They know the product is weak, but they don't call out the system, because if they do, they're labeled problematic. They risk losing future work. So instead of holding studios accountable, they turn on the one group they can criticize safely, the paying audience. You just didn't get it. You're not the target demographic. Maybe this movie wasn't made for you. And with that, the cycle starts all over again. This, right here, is the death spiral of modern Hollywood, all because no one is allowed to question the rules. Who made these mandates? Who approved them? Why is no one willing to revise them when they clearly don't work? And here's the most bitter truth. Whether you're ethnically diverse, female, or a member of the LGBTQ community, this should concern you even more, because you were turned into a human shield for billion-dollar corporations. Your identity became a marketing tool. You were placed in front of the product to deflect criticism, and that is Hollywood's most unforgivable sin. You all deserved better. You were never given a say in any of it. So what did we gain? Did we get better stories? No. Did it lead to record profits? No. Did it educate people and bring society closer together? Also no. What we got was division, fatigue, and a dying industry too proud to admit it made a wrong turn. Hollywood, quite literally, lost the plot. I hope this gives you a clearer picture of how good intentions, when twisted into rigid mandates, don't always lead to better outcomes. In fact, they often do the opposite. When you hear the term DEI, I hope you don't just think of inclusion or fairness. I hope you remember the unspoken rules behind it, the way they've been used to manipulate stories, silence criticism, and shield corporations from accountability. Not as a tool for progress, but as a weaponized form of manipulation, one that exploits identity, stifles creativity, and punishes anyone who dares to ask the obvious question: is this actually making things better? Because if we're not allowed to ask that, then maybe it was never really about storytelling at all. Art is meant to be shared, not enforced. It's an invitation, not an obligation. A story should offer something to the audience, not demand approval based on who's in it or what it represents. Yes, diverse creators absolutely deserve the chance to tell their stories. That's how culture grows. That's how we get fresh ideas. But those stories need to earn attention, the same way any great piece of art does, by resonating with people. Let the free market decide. Let the audience choose what moves them. Don't guilt people into watching. Don't shame them for not connecting. That's not how you build support. That's how you build resentment. Great art doesn't need to be propped up by moral pressure. It stands on its own because it's real, it's human, and it speaks to us. If studios really believed in these new voices, they wouldn't need to hijack old franchises or silence criticism. They'd just fund the work, release it, and let it speak for itself. That's what real confidence looks like, and that's what real art deserves.